The twin suns of Vareth shone over a wide silver city that touched the clouds, their light dancing on the smooth crystal towers. The air was calm, filled with the hum of floating transports and the soft chatter of alien voices. In the middle of the grand city stood a tall temple made of stone older than time itself. Inside, rows of glowing relics lined the walls, weapons, helmets, and armor pieces from long-forgotten wars. Lura, a young alien girl with pale blue skin and eyes that shimmered like stars, walked through the hall with excitement. She was proud to show this place to her human friend Ethan. He was one of the few humans on Vareth, a mechanic who had crash-landed on the planet after his ship failed in deep space. The Terrell people, Lura's kind, had taken him in. Lura looked back at Ethan and smiled. "This place is special," she said softly, her voice echoing in the quiet hall. "Every piece here belonged to my ancestors. Each one tells a story of honor and battle." Ethan nodded, brushing the dust off his jacket. "It's incredible." "You weren't kidding about your people being warriors," he said, glancing at the towering suits of armor that looked far too large for any normal being. Lura stopped in front of one massive display, a suit of silver and black armor sealed in a glass-like crystal. It stood twice Ethan's height, glowing faintly under the temple lights. Ancient runes covered its surface and a golden crest shaped like wings rested on its chest. "This," Lura whispered, "belonged to the first guardian. A legend. He led our armies when monsters filled the skies. They say he wasn't one of us. Some stories even claim he came from the stars, from another world." Ethan tilted his head, staring at the human-like shape of the armor. "Looks almost my size," he said with a grin. Lura laughed, the sound echoing between the stone pillars. "You, the Guardian? Don't be silly. That armor would crush you before you even touch it. It hasn't moved in over 1,000 years. Ethan smiled back. 1,000 years, huh? Maybe it just needs someone with charm to wake it up." Lura rolled her eyes. "Go on, try it human," she teased. "Let's see if the armor of legends will bow to a simple mechanic." It was just a joke, a moment meant to make her friend laugh. But when Ethan stepped closer, something in the air changed. The temperature dropped, and the soft humming of the relics around them fell silent. Ethan reached out, his fingers brushing the smooth surface of the crystal barrier. A faint blue spark jumped from the armor to his skin. The ground trembled. Lura blinked. "Wait, what did you—" Before she could finish, the crystal seal cracked with a sharp hiss. Lines of light spread across it like a spider web. The ancient lock released with a deep mechanical groan. The armor's eyes lit up with bright blue fire. Ethan stumbled back. "I didn't do anything!" he shouted. The crystal shattered. The armor's pieces floated into the air, spinning in a slow circle around him. Lura gasped as ancient words began to echo through the temple walls. Spoken in a voice older than her entire species. "The Guardian returns." The pieces of the armor flew toward Ethan, wrapping around him one by one. He tried to run, but it was too late. The metal melted like liquid, flowing over his arms, chest, and legs, sealing around his body. The runes on its surface lit up brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. Lura fell to her knees. No, this can't be real," she cried. "That armor shouldn't work, it's a relic." Ethan could barely breathe. His vision blurred as symbols flashed in front of his eyes. Strange images of fire, battlefields, and dark skies filled with monstrous shapes. He heard voices, dozens of them, whispering in a language he didn't know yet somehow understood. "Rise, Guardian." The swarm stirs once more. Energy exploded from the armor, knocking down ancient statues and sending a shockwave through the entire temple. Outside, the sky darkened. Lightning flashed across both suns at once. Guards rushed into the hall, shouting in alarm, but the armor's blue aura pushed them back like a storm wind. Ethan stood in the center, glowing like a living flame. "Lura," he shouted, panic in his voice. "I can't move it." It's alive." She reached out to him, tears forming in her eyes. "Ethan, stop. Take it off, please." But the armor didn't listen. It sealed completely, its golden crest shining bright. The air around them grew heavy as the temple's great bells began to toll by themselves, their sound deep and haunting. Outside, the ground split open, and from the cracks came a low, rumbling voice that shook the city. "The Guardian has awakened, and so has the darkness." Lura stared at Ethan, who stood frozen in the glowing armor, light pouring from his eyes. For the first time in her life, she felt real fear, and deep within the armor, a spark of something ancient, something human, had stirred once again. The temple was in chaos, guards shouting as glowing dust rained down from the broken ceiling. The ancient armor stood alive once more, wrapped around Ethan like a second skin. Every movement he made sent ripples of light through the air, as if the armor was breathing with him. Laura stumbled backward, her heart pounding. "That's impossible," she whispered. "No one can control the Guardian's armor. It's forbidden to even touch it." Ethan didn't answer. He could barely hear her. The armor filled his head with voices, whispers of warriors, cries of battles, commands from something deep and powerful. Each word echoed in his bones. His pulse matched the beat of the glowing runes across the chest plate. The guards surrounded him, aiming their pulse spears. "Drop the weapon," one shouted, though he could see Ethan had no weapon at all. The armor was the weapon. Laura pushed between them. "Stop, he didn't do this on purpose," she cried. But before anyone could move, Ethan's hands lit up with blue energy. A pulse of force shot outward, throwing everyone across the room. Statues shattered, glass burst, and dust filled the air. Ethan looked down at his hands, horrified. I didn't mean to." Laura slowly approached, covering her face from the heat radiating off him. "Ethan, listen to me. You have to calm down," she said softly, her voice trembling. "The armor reacts to your emotions. It's feeding on you." He shook his head. "I can't stop it. It's inside my mind, showing me things." His voice was low, almost distant. "There's a battlefield, fire everywhere, and I'm standing in the middle of it." The temple's main crystal cracked again. A deep hum filled the ground. The symbols carved into the floor began to glow, forming a circle around them. Laura's fear turned to awe as ancient runes lit up, words of her ancestors that no one had ever seen alive. Then a cold wind swept through the temple, a whisper of something ancient awakening beneath the planet's surface. Ethan fell to one knee. "It's saying something," he muttered. "The Guardian." "The swarm." His voice changed, deeper now, almost echoing with two tones at once. "They're coming back." "The swarm?" Laura whispered. "That can't be. They were destroyed ages ago." But the armor seemed to disagree. It projected a ghostly image into the air. Dark, writhing shapes with burning eyes spreading across the stars like living shadows. The swarm, the destroyers of worlds, the ones her ancestors had nearly lost everything to. Laura felt her stomach twist. Why would they return now? The temple doors burst open again. An elder priestess wrapped in silver robes entered with slow, careful steps. Her eyes were white and sightless, but her voice carried power. "The sound of awakening reaches even the deep," she said. "The Guardian has chosen again." Laura turned toward her. "Chosen? He's just a human, a traveler." "This must be a mistake." The old woman smiled faintly. "There are no mistakes in the path of destiny. The blood remembers." She raised her hand toward Ethan. The runes on his armor responded instantly, glowing brighter. The priestess gasped. "It's true. His pattern matches the first Guardian's essence. The same bond, reborn." Ethan could barely stand. "What are you saying?" "You are his echo," she said. "A descendant of the one who first wore that armor. A child of the lost warriors of the stars." Laura froze. "You mean humans fought with us before?"
"Yes," the priestess said slowly.
"But history forgot them when the last battle ended. The first Guardian sealed the swarm, giving his life to protect us. His bloodline vanished. Until now," Ethan's head spun. "He remembered nothing like that, and he was just a pilot, a simple engineer. Yet somehow this armor recognized him. It felt like home, like it had been waiting for him all along." Suddenly, the ground trembled again. The lights in the temple flickered. Outside, distant thunder rolled even though there was no storm. The priestess turned toward the sound, her voice suddenly grim. "The seal is weakening. The swarm stirs in their prison. The Guardian's return has awakened them too." Ethan's pulse raced. "You're saying I started this?" She nodded slowly. "The bond cuts both ways. When one rises, so does the other." Laura grabbed his hand through the glowing armor. It was hot, but she didn't care. "We'll find a way to fix this," she said firmly. "You didn't ask for this, but maybe it chose you for a reason." Ethan looked into her glowing eyes, and for a moment the voices in his head went quiet. But only for a moment. Then a deep sound echoed again from somewhere far below the city, a roar that wasn't from any living creature. The priestess whispered, "They have felt the Guardian's light." The temple walls trembled again as dust fell from the ceiling. Laura looked at Ethan, her voice shaking. "What do we do now?" Ethan stared at the distant sky through the cracked roof, lightning flashing across both suns. "If they're coming," he said quietly, "then we need to be ready." And though he tried to sound brave, deep down he felt it. This was only the beginning, and the armor that shouldn't exist had awakened something the galaxy was never meant to see again. The next morning, the twin suns of Vareth rose through a red haze. The city below the temple still shook from the night before. People whispered about the glowing light that had filled the sky, about the thunder that came from the ground instead of the clouds. Soldiers guarded the temple gates while priests prayed to calm the fear that spread through the streets. Inside, Ethan sat on the cold marble floor, still wearing the ancient armor. The glow had dimmed, but the runes on his chest still pulsed like a slow heartbeat. He stared at his hands, unsure if they still belonged to him. Every few minutes he could hear faint voices, memories not his own, like ghosts whispering across time. Lura walked toward him, holding a small cup of glowing blue water. "Drink," she said softly. "It helps with the energy burn." He smiled weakly. "Do I look that bad?" "You look like you fought a lightning storm," she said, sitting beside him. "But you're alive. That's something." Ethan took a slow sip and sighed. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen, Lura. If I could take it off, I would." She looked at the armor, tracing one of the glowing lines with her eyes. "We tried last night. The temple engineers used every scanner and code they had. It won't release you." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then I'm trapped in this thing?" Before Lura could answer, the old priestess entered. Her silver robes glowed faintly, and her blind eyes looked straight at Ethan as if she could see his soul. "You are not trapped," she said calmly. "You are chosen." Ethan looked up at her. "Chosen for what? To destroy everything?" The priestess smiled sadly. "To remember what the stars forgot." She gestured for them to follow her. They walked through a narrow corridor behind the temple, where walls were carved with scenes of ancient wars. Torches flickered, making the images move like living shadows. Soldiers fought monsters that looked like dark clouds with teeth, and in every battle one figure stood at the center, a tall warrior in the same armor Ethan now wore. Lura stared at the carvings. "That's him," she whispered. "The first guardian," the priestess nodded. "Yes, a being not born of this world. He came from the black ocean between stars. He led us when hope was lost." Ethan stopped. "Are you saying he was human?" The priestess turned toward him, her face unreadable. "That is the truth our people buried. Long ago, before your world was known to the stars, one of your kind was taken by our ancestors. The Tyrell needed a warrior to fight the swarm. They found him, broken, lost, but brave. He wore this armor and saved us all." Ethan stared at the wall, at the image of the warrior surrounded by fire. "Then why erase the truth?" "Because," she said quietly, "the truth frightened us. We feared humans, how your kind could bond with the armor in ways no Tyrell ever could. So we built walls of silence around history. We pretended the Guardian was one of us, but legends can't be buried forever." The torches flickered again. A strange vibration ran through the ground. Lura frowned. "What was that?" The priestess sighed. "The swarm stirs. The seal that holds them grows weak. You saw it in your visions, didn't you?" Ethan nodded slowly. "A storm. Black skies. A sea of shadows. I thought it was just a dream." "It was a memory," the priestess said. "The armor carries echoes of the first Guardian's final battle. He used his life to lock the swarm away, but when you touched the armor, his bond awoke, and so did theirs." Lura's eyes widened. "So Ethan's connection to the armor is also a bridge to the swarm?" The priestess nodded. "The balance must be restored. If the Guardian rises again, the darkness will follow." Ethan stepped back, shaking his head. "So I caused this? I just wanted to help fix a ship, not start a war." Lura reached for him. Ethan calmed down. "This isn't your fault." But the armor reacted again to his fear. Blue light flared from his hands, carving deep marks into the floor. The air vibrated with a low hum. Lura grabbed his shoulders, shouting, "Focus! Look at me, you're still you." The glow slowly faded. Ethan's breathing steadied. He looked into her eyes, full of worry but also trust. "I don't know how to control it," he whispered. The priestess placed a hand on his shoulder. "You must go to the heart of Vareth, the place where the Guardian first stood. There lies the memory of his strength, and the key to your control." Ethan looked at Lura. "And if I fail?" The priestess turned toward the carvings again, her voice soft and distant. "Then the swarm will rise again, and every world will burn as before." Silence filled the hall. Dust floated through the air like fading stars. Laura finally spoke. Then we have no choice. We'll go. Ethan nodded, though fear still trembled in his chest. Guess destiny doesn't care what I want. The priestess smiled faintly. It never does, Guardian. But remember this. The first Guardian stood alone. You do not. Laura took Ethan's hand firm and steady. The blue glow of the armor reflected in her eyes. Outside, thunder rolled again from beneath the planet. Deep and distant, the sound of something ancient waking up. The Guardian's path had begun once more. The storms above Vareth grew darker with each passing day. The sky, once a calm blue glow between twin suns, now burned red every night as if warning of something coming. From space, massive clouds of shadow drifted toward the planet, unseen by most, but the armor knew. It pulsed stronger every hour, whispering warnings into Ethan's mind. He couldn't sleep. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw flashes of ancient battles, armies of light facing creatures made of smoke and teeth, skies filled with black fire. The voices in his head grew louder, speaking words he didn't understand. But one word always echoed clearly: swarm. Laura noticed the change in him. His once bright eyes now glowed faintly, even without the armor's light. She found him standing outside the temple before dawn, watching the horizon where thunder cracked across a cloudless sky. You haven't rested, she said softly. Ethan shook his head. I can't. It's like they're out there waiting. I can feel them moving. She looked at him with worry. The priest confirmed it. 3 ships disappeared near our moon last night. No signals. No debris, just gone. Ethan clenched his fists. The armor's edges flickered, reacting to his anger. It's them. The swarm. Laura swallowed hard. Then the old stories were true. Before they could speak more, the temple bells began to ring. A soldier ran toward them, breathless. High Command calls for you, Guardian, he shouted. The council demands your presence at once. Inside the great council hall, shimmering holograms of alien leaders surrounded the center platform. They stared at Ethan with fear and awe. The eldest among them, a sharp-eyed woman with silver skin, spoke first. Human, your awakening has brought disturbance to our world. The enemy you speak of, how do we know it is real? Ethan stepped forward, the sound of the armor echoing through the chamber. Because I can feel them, he said simply. They're coming for this planet and for me. I woke something that should have stayed asleep. The room fell silent. Laura looked around at the council members. You saw the sky yourselves. You felt the tremors. The swarm is returning whether you believe or not. The silver-skinned leader frowned. Our fleets are small. Our people are not soldiers anymore. We have not fought in centuries. Then you'll fall in days, Ethan said. His voice was calm but heavy with certainty. You need to prepare now. Another council member hissed, and who made you our commander, human? Before Ethan could answer, the ground rumbled. The lights flickered. Through the glass walls of the chamber, a massive explosion lit up the sky. A scout base in the distance had just vanished in flames. An officer shouted, Contact! Unknown fleet inbound. They came out of the void. Laura turned to Ethan. You were right. The armor came alive before he even thought. Blue light covered his body, and his visor closed with a metallic hiss. Then there's no more talking, Ethan said. Let's show them what a human can do. Moments later, Ethan stood on the city's outer wall facing the dark sky. From above, hundreds of shadow-shaped ships descended, black and formless like creatures made of mist and metal. Their sound was like 1,000 whispers carried by wind. The city's defenses opened fire, beams of plasma lighting the air. But the shadows swallowed the light, absorbing it. The swarm had evolved. Ethan raised his hand. The armor's core burned bright. A blast of blue energy burst from his palm, slicing through the darkness. The ground shook under the recoil. Entire clusters of swarm vessels shattered in a single wave. The Tyrell soldiers cheered, but only for a moment. More shadows came, thicker and faster. Laura watched from a control tower, her heart racing. He can't fight them all. The priestess appeared beside her. He doesn't have to win, she said. He has to remember. Ethan moved like lightning. The armor guided his body, predicting every strike before it came. Energy blades formed in his hands as he cut through the enemy swarms that dove from the sky. The air burned with blue fire as the ancient power of the Guardian returned to life. But the more he fought, the more the armor consumed him. His voice echoed with 2 tones again. his own and another older voice buried inside. Protect them. Seal the darkness again. He dropped to one knee as the armor's energy overloaded. The last swarm ships retreated, their bodies twisting into smoke and vanishing into the upper sky. Silence fell over the battlefield. Lura ran to him, kneeling by his side. "Ethan, can you hear me?" He looked up weakly, eyes glowing faint blue. "They're testing us." That wasn't their full army. The priestess stepped forward from the smoke. "You've awakened their scouts. The real swarm will come next." Ethan tried to stand, but the armor resisted, locking him in place. "Why is it doing this?" he whispered. The priestess's face grew grim. "Because it knows what's coming. The Guardian's path is not defense. It is sacrifice." Lura froze. "Sacrifice?" The old woman nodded. "To stop the swarm again, the Guardian must open the gate at the heart of Vareth, the same place the first Guardian died." Ethan's breath caught. The armor pulsed once more as if it understood. "Then that's where we go," he said quietly, "before the swarm reaches us first." And as the storm clouds thickened above the planet, lightning flashing across both suns, the fate of Vareth and of Ethan moved toward its final reckoning. The fires from the battle still burned across the outer walls of Vareth. The air smelled of smoke and dust, and pieces of fallen ships still floated in the sky like black snow. The people called it a victory, but Ethan didn't feel like one. He could still hear the echo of the armor's voice in his head, ancient, commanding, unrelenting. He sat in silence inside a dim medical chamber, the walls glowing faint green. The armor had loosened just enough to let him breathe, but its energy still surrounded him like invisible chains. Lura sat nearby, watching him with worried eyes. She hadn't left his side since the battle. "You saved them all," she said softly. "If you hadn't been there, Vareth would already be gone." Ethan didn't look at her. His eyes were fixed on his hands that had glowed like fire hours ago, destroying entire fleets. "I didn't save them," he said quietly. "The armor did, and it nearly killed me doing it." Lura stood, pacing. "You can't blame yourself. That thing chose you for a reason." He laughed weakly. "Yeah, maybe because it knew I was stupid enough to wear it." He rubbed his temples, feeling the pulse of the armor in his veins. "Every time I use it, I feel less human, like it's taking something from me." The door slid open and the old priestess entered with 2 guards. Her expression was heavy with worry. "You are not wrong," she said. "The armor draws strength from its bearer's life. The more power it uses, the more it consumes." Lura turned sharply. "You never said that before." The priestess lowered her head. "Because it was forbidden knowledge. Only the first Guardian ever wore it long enough to learn the truth." "He gave his life to stop the swarm, not because they killed him, but because the armor drained him completely." Ethan's face turned pale. "So every time I fight, I'm dying faster?" "Yes," she said softly. "The armor burns the life of the wearer to awaken its full strength. You cannot wield it freely without paying the price." Lura shook her head, her voice trembling. "Then we find another way. There must be a way to stop the swarm without killing him." The priestess sighed. "The armor cannot be passed to another once it bonds. The link is sealed in the soul." Ethan stood slowly, ignoring the weakness in his legs. "Then I'll deal with it," he said. "If the armor chose me to finish what the first Guardian started, I won't run." Lura grabbed his arm. "Don't you dare say that." "You're not dying for this planet." He looked at her gently. "Lura, your people saved me when I crashed here. If the swarm comes, they'll kill everyone, and not just Terrell, but humans too if they ever find Earth. Maybe this armor picked me because I had nothing left to lose." Her eyes filled with tears. "That's not true. You have me now." For a moment, silence filled the room. The armor's faint light flickered softer, almost as if it could feel her words. Then a loud alarm blared across the city. Red lights flashed through the hall. A soldier rushed in. "The outer satellites are gone. Something hit them from beyond the orbit." The priestess turned toward the window. In the distance, the stars shimmered strangely, as if being swallowed one by one. "The swarm grows stronger," she said. "This was only the beginning." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then we end it before they reach the surface." The priestess stepped closer. "You cannot stop them alone, Guardian. To win, you must awaken the heart of Vareth. But know this, when the heart opens, it will take the last of your strength. That is the true price of power." Lura shook her head violently. "No, there has to be another way." The priestess turned away. "There is none." Ethan walked toward the door, the armor sealing tighter around him. The blue light returned to his eyes. Then I'll pay it. Lura ran after him, grabbing his hand. Ethan, please. You're talking about your life. He stopped, looking into her eyes. My life was borrowed the day I crashed here. Maybe this is what it was meant for. Her voice broke. If you die, what will happen to me? He smiled softly, though sadness filled his face. You'll live. That's enough for me. Before she could stop him, the armor activated completely. A bright blue aura surrounded his body, and the wind inside the chamber howled. Ethan, she cried. He turned one last time. Tell your people to be ready. When the swarm comes again, we end this. The door sealed behind him as he vanished into the light. Lura sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face. The priestess placed a trembling hand on her shoulder. He walks the same path as the first guardian, she whispered. And like before, the stars will weep when he falls. Outside, the sky trembled once more. The storm clouds above Vareth twisted into strange shapes. The shadows of something vast approaching through the void. And deep within the armor, beneath all the power and pain, Ethan's human heart whispered one last promise to himself. If this is my end, then they'll remember what a human can do. The city of Vareth was quiet again, but the silence felt wrong. It was the kind of silence that came before a storm, heavy and cold. The people whispered of the Guardian's power, how one human had saved their world. But not everyone saw Ethan as a hero. Some saw him as a threat. General Vorkin stood on the balcony of the High Command Tower, staring at the distant glow of the temple. His armor gleamed with gold and red, the mark of Tyrell command. Behind him, soldiers waited for his order. A single human, he muttered, holding power greater than our armies. That cannot be allowed. A younger officer hesitated. But sir, he saved us. Without him, the swarm would have destroyed half the planet. Vorkin's voice hardened. And now he controls the greatest weapon in our history. The armor answers to him, not to us. Do you not see the danger? He turned toward the dark sky, where strange clouds still flickered with distant lightning. Power must belong to the Tyrell, not to an outsider. Down below in the temple's inner halls, Lura found Ethan standing by the great window, staring at the twin suns. His face looked tired, older somehow. The armor's glow had faded, but its weight still clung to him. You should rest, she said quietly. He shook his head. Every time I close my eyes, I see them. The swarm, they're coming faster than we think. She stepped closer. You don't have to face this alone, Ethan. Let the council help. He looked at her sadly. The council doesn't trust me. I can feel it. They're afraid of what I've become. Before she could answer, the door opened and General Vorkin walked in, flanked by guards. He smiled politely, but there was no warmth in his eyes. Guardian, he said. The council has decided it's time we understand your armor better. We have scientists ready to assist. They can help you remove it. Ethan frowned. Remove it? That's impossible. The priestess already said it's bonded. Vorkin's smile tightened. Perhaps she was mistaken. We have technology far beyond temple rituals. Lura stepped forward. General, that's dangerous. The armor's energy could... He cut her off sharply. This isn't your concern, girl. The safety of Vareth comes first. Ethan's eyes narrowed. You mean control comes first? The air between them grew tense. The armor hummed faintly, responding to his unease. Vorkin's soldiers stepped back, their weapons shaking. Lura grabbed Ethan's hand. Don't. That's what he wants, for you to lose control. Ethan took a deep breath and forced the glow to fade. Fine, he said slowly. If you think you can help, I'll come. But no tricks. Vorkin's smile returned, cold and fake. Of course, Guardian. No tricks. They led him to a vast underground facility, a place even Lura had never seen. The walls were covered in energy conduits and mechanical arms, humming with strange power. Ethan stood in the center of the room while machines scanned the armor. Lura stayed near the control platform, her heart uneasy. The priestess had warned her about false allies among their people. Vorkin watched from the balcony above. Begin extraction, he ordered. A beam of red light shot down onto Ethan. The armor screamed, a sharp metallic wail that echoed through the room. Ethan fell to one knee, pain shooting through his body. The runes across his chest flared wildly. Lura shouted, Stop! You're hurting him! Vorkin ignored her. Increase power! The energy grew brighter, the machines whirring faster. The armor fought back, waves of blue light clashing with the red. Sparks exploded across the chamber. Ethan screamed as the energy tore at the bond between man and machine. Then suddenly, the armor reacted, violently. A shockwave erupted from his body, throwing soldiers against the walls. The control panel shattered. The energy beam twisted and exploded, tearing through the floor. Laura was thrown to the ground, her ears ringing. She looked up just in time to see Vorkin fall from the balcony as the entire ceiling began to crack. Ethan stood at the center of the chaos, surrounded by a storm of blue fire. His voice was no longer just his own. It was layered, echoing with the power of the first guardian. "You tried to steal what was never yours," he thundered. The soldiers fled in terror. Laura forced herself to stand and ran to him. "Ethan, stop. Please." He turned to her, the light fading from his eyes. "I didn't want this," he said, his voice shaking. "I just wanted peace." Vorkin lay on the floor, half buried under debris, gasping for breath. His hand trembled as he reached for a small beacon on his belt. You don't belong here," he whispered before pressing it. A low alarm began to sound. Red lights flashed across the room. Laura froze. What did he do? Ethan looked up toward the surface and felt it instantly. Something massive was moving in orbit above them. The armor's sensors screamed in his head. "The swarm," he said in a low voice. "He called them here." Laura's eyes went wide. "No." A deep rumble shook the ground. Through the cracks in the ceiling, they saw black shadows blotting out the suns. Ethan's voice hardened. "He betrayed us all." He grabbed Laura's hand. "We need to get everyone to safety, now." The temple bells began to ring again, this time not from prophecy, but from warning. Above Vareth, the sky tore open as the first wave of the shadow swarm descended, their endless wings covering the light. And deep inside the broken facility, the armor whispered one terrible truth into Ethan's mind. The final war has begun. The sky above Vareth burned red and black. The twin suns disappeared behind a curtain of shadow as the swarm descended, millions of dark ships covering the heavens like an endless storm. The city below shook with every impact. Towers crumbled, fire rained from the sky, and the air was filled with the screams of both humans and Terrell. Ethan stood on the highest platform of the temple, the armor now alive with pure light. It pulsed around him like a living flame. His hair floated in the energy wind, his eyes glowing bright blue. Laura stood beside him, her face streaked with ash and tears. "They've broken through every defense line," she said. "We can't stop them." Not this time, Ethan didn't answer. He was listening, not to her, but to the voices within the armor. The echoes of the first guardian, of the countless warriors before him. They whispered one truth, one path. The heart of Vareth must be opened. He looked at her finally. "If I open the heart, it'll stop them. But it'll take me with it." Laura shook her head. "No, there has to be another way." "You'll die." Ethan smiled softly. "Then I'll die as what they feared I couldn't be, a human who didn't run." A loud explosion rocked the city below. The ground trembled so hard that even the temple pillars cracked. Through the smoke they saw the swarm's central ship, a massive black sphere blotting out the suns. It pulsed with crimson veins of light, feeding the smaller ships like a beating heart. Laura grabbed his arm. "If you're going, I'm going with you." He shook his head gently. "You can't. The armor's energy will tear anything near it apart once it connects with the heart. Stay here. Please," her voice broke. "Ethan, you saved my world. Don't make me watch you leave it." He looked at her one last time, his hand brushing her cheek. "You gave me something to fight for. That's enough." Before she could speak again, the armor's wings unfolded from his back, shimmering extensions of light and power. He rose into the air, leaving a trail of glowing symbols behind him. Laura fell to her knees, watching as he flew toward the dark sky. Above the planet, the battle was chaos. Swarm vessels fired streams of molten plasma, tearing through the atmosphere. The Terrell defense fleet fought bravely, but their weapons barely scratched the enemy's living ships. Then the sky split open again. A beam of blue light pierced through the clouds. "Ethan." He tore through the swarm lines like a comet, every strike from his hands exploding with divine force. Shadows turned to ash around him. On the communication channel, Terrell soldiers cheered. "The Guardian fights for us," one shouted. "He's turning the tide." But Ethan knew the truth. The swarm was endless. For every ship he destroyed, 10 more emerged from the void. The armor's power burned hotter, draining his strength. His breath came in gasps. "The heart," he whispered. "It's time." The armor responded instantly. The runes across his body lit up like fire. Beneath the city, ancient mechanisms awoke. The heart of Vareth buried deep within the planet's core. It had slept for 1,000 years, waiting for the Guardian's return. Ethan dove straight into the atmosphere, the armor screaming through the air like thunder. The swarm followed him in a black wave, trying to drag him down. But he didn't stop. He fell faster and faster, a trail of blue fire behind him. Lura watched from the temple as he vanished into the clouds. Tears streamed down her face. "Come back," she whispered. "Please come back." The ground shook as Ethan reached the core chamber. It was a vast cavern of golden stone, pulsing with energy like a giant heartbeat. The armor's voice filled his mind. "Merge. Seal the darkness forever." He closed his eyes. "Let's finish it." The armor opened completely, spreading its wings wide. Light flooded the chamber, brighter than the sun's. Ethan raised his hands, and the energy connected, human and ancient power becoming one. Above, every swarm ship froze mid-air. The sky went silent. Then a blinding wave of blue light erupted from the planet, spreading in every direction. It tore through the dark fleet, dissolving them into dust. The shadow vanished. The sky cleared. Vareth's people looked up as the light covered their world like dawn breaking after endless night. Lura shielded her eyes, crying out his name. "Ethan." When the light faded, the sky was calm again. The swarm was gone, but the temple platform where Ethan once stood was empty. Only the faint shimmer of blue dust floated in the wind. Lura fell to her knees, her heart breaking. Around her, people cheered, crying in relief. But she couldn't smile. She felt only the hollow ache of loss. The priestess appeared beside her, her blind eyes glowing faintly. "He did what no one else could," she whispered. "The Guardian sleeps again." Lura clutched the pendant around her neck, a small piece of metal Ethan had given her long ago. "He's not gone," she said quietly. "He's part of this world now." And far beneath the surface of Vareth, deep within the glowing heart, the armor rested, its lights dimmed, but not gone. Inside its core, a faint heartbeat echoed once, twice, as if waiting. The Guardian had fallen, but humanity's light still burned in the stars.